Shin Gojira by Hideaki Anno, most famous for Neon Genesis Evangelion. What do we make of Shin Gojira? I believe this title was somewhat controversial amongst the Godzilla fans in the English-speaking world. Here's the thing. The 2014 Godzilla was considered disappointing by some. Not by me, not by any means. It was terrific, actually. Superb direction. I think people are upset that it didn't go too far enough in some directions, although I thought it was a superlative realization of a contemporary CGI Godzilla and in a modern environment, how people would react to it, sincere and wholly serious tone. I really appreciated that about the 2014 film. And Shin Gojira really upped the ante, posing the question of, what if there was no Godzilla movie, no kaiju, that wasn't an aspect in culture, and it rocked up in 2016 in Japan. How do they deal with it? What happens? If you think that, that's a terrible premise, like how can a film handle that well? Go watch Shin Gojira. Now, if you think that's an awful premise and you think Godzilla ought to be some sort of, you think that garbage, let's face it, 2019, the King of the Monsters thing, you think that's an ideal Godzilla film? I mean, I guess if it's more like you just like a plot synopsis which includes all these monsters, even though it's like abysmally directed, have fun with that. I had a commenter take issue with my saying that those really great 90s Gamera films were good because they were realistic kind of what-if situations, and they decried, no, it's not that they're, I don't want kaiju films to be realistic, but, I want them to be as fantastical as possible. And it's like, you want fantastical as possible, you get, like, some of those wacky 70s Godzilla movies. Like, I like those, but, like, do you? Probably not. Oh, the effects are bad. Oh, well, they're wacky. I don't know what to tell you. And you think the effects in 2019 King of the Monsters is going to hold up? Don't be fucking silly. Anyway, so what I'm saying is, what he said, the commenter said, well, it's not that the Gamera films in the 90s were realistic, it's that they were serious. And this film is, maybe the 2014 Godzilla is closer to that, serious rather than realistic. This is both serious and realistic. I mean, it's going to be, if it's realistic, it's going to be fairly serious, as you imagine. Some people thought the CGI didn't look up to scratch and that Godzilla's eye looked, silly or whatever, and in the context of a film that's unacceptable. If that happened in real life, we wouldn't be complaining, that natural disaster monster's eye looks silly. Just learn to accept this stuff after a while. You know what I mean? Sometimes things don't have to look real. They just need to look interesting, odd, and or expressionistic. It's just like, learn a little bit about the history of cinema. What am I expecting of certain English language Godzilla fans, actually? I can understand if I really can understand if one wants something more escapist and fun out of their Godzilla films than this film. That's fine, but I assume you mustn't like the original 1954 film either, right? Well, you don't, I assume. There's just, okay, that's fine. Just go on record saying that, please. I don't care, but somehow I suspect that, I can't insult the original film. Why? It's serious. So is this one. You hated this one for being serious and realistic or whatever. Why not the original? It's fairly realistic in its own way. I understand if you don't want your Godzilla films to be like, that film Contagion by Soderbergh from 2011, although I wouldn't have thought I wanted that either, but in execution, this film is phenomenally engaging from moment to moment and one of the best contemporary real-world set thrillers of any genre. The fact that it had to be done in the context and managed to be executed in the context of a Godzilla movie is stunning, frankly. Acknowledging our discontent endorses Shin Gojira, and I'll accept all the consequences of that if there is any consequences. I think this one's a bit contentious amongst the English-speaking Godzilla fan base, as I said. I think the Japanese fan base is totally on board with this. I'm looking forward to a sequel, and I guess Hideaki Anno might be busy. He was remaking Neon Genesis Evangelion, again, I guess. And so I think that may have finished recently, though, so we may get Shin Gojira 2 eventually, if he's even involved, which I kind of hope he is, given that he must have had something to do with the quality of this film. It's certainly very well directed. I'm kind of mixed on Neon Genesis Evangelion. I love the film where everyone dies, but that's partly because the show was kind of annoying. That the tonal shifts of that show annoy the heck out of me. It's like on the one hand is this serious, like oh my god, what's going on? It's like, I love the idea of these ancient beings from, like Jewish mythology coming out again at the apocalypse, and these mech suits have to fight them, just thinking they're regular extraterrestrials, and it's just like, actually, this is stuff predicted in ancient books, sacred texts. And then ultimately, it's about all the trauma stuff's kind of very, very dated ideas, very kind of cliche, horrifying soap opera ideas of mental illness and PTSD now. Good try, I guess. But the film End of Evangelion was great. But then the show has that, but then they have scenes of like bathing scenes and like the penguin noticing Shinji's never reach. It's just an awful show like half of the time. And the movie was cool. The penguin didn't get a death scene. I wish the penguin got a death scene. Actually, no, I don't. Penguins are cool. Let's shut this video off now. This is my last video ever. To hell with it.